Hello everyone, my name is Abyssal Structures, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create this patch that you're hearing right now in VCV Rack. It's an ever-evolving underwater ambience patch that can be used in music, video games, documentaries about the deep sea, you name it. To follow along with this tutorial, you're going to need VCV Rack and some weapons-grade autism. Okay, maybe the autism is not a strict requirement, but it helps since we're diving deep into the world of modular synthesis. The free version of VCV Rack should work just fine, although the pro version is more than worth it if you want to use VCV as a plugin in your DAW, for example. I'm using the Convolver from the pro version here, but you can replace it with any reverb module with a very long decay time. If you're really hardcore, you could also probably do this on real hardware, but I'll leave it up to you to find the modules required for that. Please write a comment and give this video a thumbs up if you find this tutorial useful, and subscribe to get notified of videos I make in the future. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into what you're here for, and let's start making the patch. Okay, so here we have a completely fresh patch from VCV Rack. I'm using version 2.6.6, but anything that has the same modules should work. Especially if you're watching this later, the latest version should work just fine. And we can delete most of this new patch. We're just going to leave the scope and the audio out module. And I'm just gonna put in my normal output from my tractor control DJ desk, and then we're gonna start by putting in a mixer. This is probably overkill for the patch, but I like having options to do more stuff later, so we're going to be using this 16 channel one, and straight off the bat I'm going to be putting in the EQ that belongs with it, as well as actually in between I will put in the aux expander so we can plug our effects into the aux channels rather than as inserts in between. And then we're going to be doing our first oscillator. And for that, I'm going to be using the macro oscillator from Audible Instruments, which is a hardware clone of braids from Mutable Instruments, which is actual hardware. So if you are following along in hardware, you can use that. And for this one, we're going to be using the model which says ZBPF, bandpass filtered waveform. And we're going to be going down by, I think, 19 semitones it was. I'll just put it in here, minus 19. And then we're going to be adding this one right here, Thorns from Flag, for some saturation. And we're going to be putting this into the audio input of the saturator, and then I'm going to put in a VCA, voltage controlled amplifier. We're going to be using this actually for 2 of the sounds, but I will start with just one, and I will create an audio cable, put it into the first input of this VCA. And from the output there, we're going to be putting it into the first channel on the mixer. And also at this point, you can see that we're not hearing anything. That's because we haven't connected our mixer into the audio output yet. So we'll do that as well. We'll do the left channel into the left one, and the right channel into the right one. And we'll turn it down a little bit because it's a very annoying sound at this point. And we're going to turn the timbre all the way down, because this is going to be a very bassy sound. This is going to be basically our undertone of the water body, basically. And what we're going to be doing then is duplicating this, putting it on this side, and this one we're going to have, I believe it's at 7 semitones, -7 semitones. So let's try that. And we're duplicating this one as well, adding it on this side. This one actually can have a little bit less drive and a darker tone. Not that it makes much difference, but it makes a difference to me, so we'll do it. Then we're gonna add that in there, and the output into the second channel here. And we're gonna have this first channel slightly higher output, and then we're going to patch this one in as well and make it less loud. Now we're having already something that sounds quite pleasant. Okay, so next we're going to be adding some LFO modulation to this. And we're going to be using this LFO from Bogodio. And we're going to have the scale very minimal, because we want very minimal movement. And we're going to use the sine output. I'm going to use my modulation cables, which is green in my system. You can have whatever you like. You can use all the different colored cables for anything. It's just a system for me to know better what I'm doing. So I'm now modulating the pitch of this oscillator very slightly. And then we are going to do another one of these. This one actually we're going to have a very slow modulation. There we go. So you barely notice it, but it's still there. And then we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to have a slightly different frequency, just so that it's slightly different. And then I'm going to put it in to the panning on this first oscillator. So now our pan should be going from right to left just a little bit, not too much, just a little. Maybe I'll increase the scale a little bit so we can actually notice it, and also the offset, so it goes both directions. Now you can see the yellow there is our automation. I think I'll put a little bit more, just like so. And what I also want to do is I'll just add a filter in here, VCF. We're just going to use the built-in VCV one, and instead of putting these directly in there, I'm going to drive them through here first. And we're going to put in the low pass filtered output in here. So now the panning is also going to affect both of these sounds at the same time. And then we're going to increase this to around 400 or so hertz. So we're just getting the low end. Then what we're going to do is add a phaser. And I'm going to be using, where is it? I want to be using this surge one. And we're only going to have 2 stages. And what we're going to plug into that is a noise oscillator. We'll use this one from MSM. I'm going to make that the night mode one. And I'll just plug the noise output into the left input here. And then we're going to use another VCF here. We're plugging that into the input of the VCF, and the VCF is going to be around about 500 or so hertz. And we'll plug that into the next input here. This is kind of the water bubbling sound, as you can already hear. We're not going to need to do much else here. Maybe the depth doesn't have to be that much. And the rate can be very low because we don't want that much movement. We're going to be deep underwater. Right about there. Everything else we can leave default. And what we're going to do next is we're going to add a sublayer. For that, we're going to use a module called ship. This is basically just a very low sub sound. I'm going to put that around 20 hertz. You won't be even able to hear this on headphones necessarily, or low-end speakers. You're going to need something that can actually reproduce. You might need a subwoofer or really high-end headphones. And we're going to lower the channel volume a lot because it's only going to be there for basically the psychoacoustic kind of feeling. And then we're going to plug it in there. I'm also going to make these a little bit cooler. I'll like to put them aqua. There we go. It's more themed to my Abyssal Structures stuff. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're building kind of sine pings, but we're going to modulate them as well. So we're going to add a sine VCO from Surge, and I'll put the pitch down to F because that's kind of what we're tuned into. Let's see if I can actually do F3 here. Yes, so that should be exact. We're gonna increase the feedback a little bit, and we'll take the high cut down and enable it. Around 400 or so hertz is fine. Then we're going to have an envelope generator and VCA. We can also get that from Surge. And we're going to have a long decay time and not that much sustain, and a little bit release. And we're going to actually move both of these this way so we can put in a random gates module in between. We'll use this one from Metric CV. And I'm going to be using this along with the twin paradox from geodesics to trigger this. 120 BPM is fine. This may look daunting, but this is just there's two different paths that it takes, and whenever these meet, then we have this meet output, so it doesn't do it every time. And this one we're gonna use as a clock gate trigger cable. We're gonna put that into this one. We're gonna use this in hold mode, and then we're going to use the gate from here to plug that into the gate over here. So every time this output 1 gets triggered here, then we're gonna hear the sound, or we're gonna trigger this envelope generator. We're not gonna hear the sound yet because we don't have it connected, but you could already see that the envelope was triggered. And we are going to route the left input from, actually not on this one, and we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to use the same gate in here, and this one we're going to go connect to this one because we're going to use the VCA function. Wrong color, let's do audio, and over here as well. And then going to be routing it into a filter. We're also going to be using the one from Surge. We're going to have the resonance down quite low and the frequency around 400-ish. And then we're going to add some drive, and we're going to connect this into that one. I'll temporarily connect this output so you can hear what we're doing. Whenever it pings, it doesn't ping that often, but we will see once it does. Now let me check my notes. We're going to use the envelope from this first one and connect that into the volt per octave input on this sine oscillator, so that that actually pings our pitch on this one. Let me put in bonsai from Surge as well and put that at the end here. And we're going to plug that in where we had that earlier. 1 second. So this one is gonna go there. And we're gonna plug this in here instead. This is just a saturator. So we're going to, let's select the subtle one. Yeah, that's fine. And on this one, we're gonna increase the release. The decay should be fine. Let's have a snappier attack on both of these actually. And I'm going to change this curve to be faster and make this a slow digital as well as this one. Then I'm going to add our effects into the mixer. So for this one, I'm going to be using the Convolver. This is a Pro module, but you can use For example, this next one that I'm also adding, this is a plateau from Valley. If you put a long enough decay on this one, that will work just fine as well. We're going to use these both, but for now I'm plugging in the cables here, this one into aux A, one in audio, and we're gonna put it into the return input as well. And then I'm going to be sending this signal quite heavily into that. But we're gonna need to actually load an impulse response. I'm gonna be choosing Sancti Petri Basilica there. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but that is what I'm choosing. And we're going to be high passing it quite a bit, as well as low passing. So we only send the mids into it. There you go, you can already hear how it's going into that. I'm also gonna send water bubbling into it, but not quite as heavily. There we go. That sounds better already. We're going to be taking this down in volume quite a bit. Also going to make that a slower decay curve. That sounds pretty good, but it can be even lower. Just playing with this until it sounds good. We want most of it just to be the falling down. We're going to add a sample and hold here. We'll use this one from Count Modular, and we'll drive that with an LFO from Bog Audio. We'll have the scale at full on this one, and frequency can be something around there, 1.25 or so. And we'll put the sine output into the input on the sample and hold. We're going to have this on this setting, so sample and hold, which is the name of the module as well. And then we're going to use the output here to modulate this one. And then we're going to have a kind of a random starting pitch. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a Benjolin Oscillator. And you'll see what this can do soon. If I just put this, say the Wrangler output from here into this here, this is kind of what it does, but we're going to use this to modulate something else. We're going to put in another one of those macro oscillators. This time the mode we're going to use, or model, is going to be the ZLPF, so low pass filtered version. The timbre can be quite dark as well, and we're going to use the first triangle output from this to modulate it. We're going to put that into the FM on this one. You're not going to hear it yet, but I'm going to be plugging that in over here. I'm also going to make this, I think, -19. Yes, so very low subby sound. And what we're going to do here is play with these until we get something we like. And we're also going to be adding some more LFOs, actually 2 of them. And then we're going to be putting this quite low. We use the sine output for the timbre here. So we have this sort of sound. Now this is already more creative, more musical. If you want an actual true to life underwater ambience, you would have stopped maybe earlier without the pings and this, but I'm going to be using this for musical purposes today, so we're going to be adding this as well. This one can also be quite slow. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to be modulating the VCA here a little bit, or put the scale down quite a bit. So this will modulate the volume of this first oscillator we made. This one also could use quite a bit of our reverb. And I'm going to be adding another oscillator. This time we'll use dark energy, which is already here from geodesics. Again, this might look daunting, but it's really just ring modulation and FM. It says complex, but I guess that's correct, but we're not going to be using all the features today. I'm going to be putting that into, I'm going to use some LFOs. I'll use the dry LFO from AS, and we're going to have a few different LFOs. Fairly slow. And this first one we're going to use to drive what we're putting in next, which is VCA, also from AS. We're going to put in the output of the energy output from this into this VCA, into the channel 1 input. We're also going to run it into Prince of Perception, which is a delay. We're not going to sync this because this is more of a natural sound. And running that into the input of this one. And then from here, let's move these out of the way a little bit. And we're going to be putting in one of these, rescale, or actually 2 of these. And we're going to be putting one more module in here, nitros from Volt. It's an acid filter, so we're gonna make this sound a bit more acidic. So we're gonna drive this into that filter. We're gonna have the cutoff around the middle, just a little bit lower. Then I'm gonna put this in to the mixer. Now it doesn't sound like much yet, but now we're gonna start modulating this. We're gonna take the wrangler from here, and we're routing that into the crossmod CV input on dark energy. And then we're going to be adding a little bit of self mod. I'm gonna change these around. Like so. This one can be very subtle, the crossmod CV, so that's how much this is going to affect the sound. Then from this LFO, we're going to be putting the first one to modulate the gain here. We're going to keep the gain right in the middle there. We're going to make this bipolar, so it's going to go both sides. So up and down, because we don't want to hear it all the time. Then the second one we're gonna put in over here in the rescale. And this is just so we can rescale this output to something more useful. We're gonna have it bipolar as well. And this one I'm going to put into the M frequency, so we can change this on the fly. I'm gonna put the minimum around -6 or so volts, and the maximum around 4 volts. And gain can be around 15% or 14, 15. This next one, we're gonna put in this C frequency. And for that one, we have fairly similar settings. It's not an exact science. Oh, where did that go? And there we go. Now that sounds pretty good to me. Actually, let's put in some of this plateau reverb in here as well. So we're going to be sending this one into plateau. There we go. Now we have a lot of reverb. Let's make the size bigger, and we'll filter it a little bit. Low can be, that's fine, but high cut around 52 Hertz. Then we're gonna EQ this a little bit as well. So the first channel, we can put in a high frequency gain, like so. I'll put this all through the scope actually. Make it a little bit more useful. There we go, so you can see See what's going on. All of these were probably just lowering the high frequencies. Except on track number 6, I'm also going to be lowering the low frequencies a little bit. I actually have to plug these in first, otherwise nothing is going to happen. So in here, now we can see to output as well in the day. So we're going to take the low frequencies down, like so. And then there is a resonance here that I want to tackle. There. There we go. That sounds pretty good to me. Let me know if you enjoyed this tutorial and leave me a thumbs up and comment on the video and subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.